Hello, guys. Welcome to my video podcast, The Real Deal with Oscar. This podcast idea has been going on in my mind for a long time. I know. The first episode I did actually wasn't the first episode. I call it the intro. It was all bloopers because it takes a lot of work to go in front of the camera. So I know why these anchormen get paid lots of money. I have deep respect for them. And also learning about all this equipment. I talked about it in the past before. I mean, you guys are not seeing, but I have like three soft lights, they called, and I have two LED lights on each side, and I have the microphone, the sound thing with the sound ideas. Like, check this out. Uh, there we go. I like that one the best. That was in my blooper too. Just getting used to and learning all this equipment, including the camera, has been a huge learning progress. That's why I have deep respect for all these people that who have YouTube channels. I think it takes a tremendous confidence and tremendous time to devote in such act that puts all these informational ideas together and makes everybody a kind of like a broadcaster. So I don't know if a lot of you guys know my background. Some of you might know me as a barber. Some of you might know me as a broker. And I consider myself an entrepreneur because I even have a patent on a product that I have invented with the Flash Genius idea years ago. And unfortunately, that idea didn't turn into a reality. It might turn into a reality with the other partners that who took over the idea, but not with me. I learned one thing as an entrepreneur that, pursue and love what you do, but never fall in love with such idea that would hold you back forever, right? Sometimes you just got to open your eyes and you got to say like, well, this was a good idea, but maybe it wasn't a good run. Well, however, I am from Istanbul, Turkey. I moved to United States almost 24 years ago, directly to Fort Lauderdale. I lived in Tamarack a bit. I went to the community college. I had tremendous, great 2 years there. I really got to learn the American culture by being in college. But it was very surprising that I realized that how much English that I didn't know. When you're in Europe, that everybody has got CVs or resumes, we call it, that everybody checks like how many languages you know, especially in Turkey. Like immediately, English and French is checked because you had like half a semester on each languages. People automatically feel like they're mastered at it. But when you actually come to a country that people natively speak such language, you realize that, man, if I'm going to live in this country, I better learn this language. So initially moving in here, I had to make money immediately, and I started working in a hair salon. I was a lot younger and better looking back then. The hair was still the same. It was still good looking. So I started doing some real estate deals, just keeping it on the RAM space of my mind by, hey, Oscar, do you know anyone is interested of, one bedroom condo? I live by Gold Ocean Mile in Gold Ocean Mile on Upper East Side of Fort Lauderdale. And I was like, oh yeah, I think I know someone is interested. And I started putting people together with a small reward. I know I wasn't supposed to have anything, but trust me, it wasn't worth that led me into venturing into this industry of real estate more and more till talking to people all day long, having numerous successful guys coming through my chair, started letting me into a different industry of how to make money. I quickly realized that money is something that is not very hard to make, but you really have to find an industry that you feel comfortable, and it has to be an essential industry that no matter when you would always make money. That's where, after talking to multiple very, very successful entrepreneurs, I found out that everybody does real estate. So I started doing some real estate deals, just keeping it on the RAM space of my mind by, hey, Oscar, do you know anyone is interested of, one bedroom condo? I live by Gold Ocean Mile in Gold Ocean Mile on Upper East Side of Fort Lauderdale. And I was like, oh yeah, I think I know someone is interested. And I started putting people together with a small reward. I know I wasn't supposed to have anything, but trust me, it wasn't worth that led me into venturing into this industry of real estate more and more. Till I remember this, it was one of those TV shows that are selling $1 million listings, and watching this guy making ridiculous comments to these clients immediately woke me and couldn't stop saying to myself is like, you know what? I think I can do this thing. It's so much easier than cutting hair. Uh, I got my real estate license, and from there on, I sold real estate for the first 2 years because you cannot become a broker. As soon as I finished my second year, I opened my own brokerage, but never became a reality. I had some personal issues that people know me personally know me. But regardless, I always kept my feet as a licensed sales associate in the industry. Up to 3 years ago, I opened my own brokerage. It's a very boutique brokerage. And I tell you why I opened my own brokerage, because a lot of people are always asking me, like, why don't you go ahead and join like big box firms of Sotheby's, Keller Williams, Remax? And I think they're fantastic. And they did one thing, they mastered the industry and they know how to sell, buy, how to nurture the clients, and all of that stuff. But one thing I wanted to do this because I have my own method of way of doing stuff. And another thing that I just don't like to have a boss. I do my own thing, and I do get enough knowledge to move forward and give the best and most efficient quality of workmanship, same as my barbering, into the real estate. And it's been doing very well. It's been a success. And, you know, other than selling and buying real estate for clients and for myself, I started learning more and more about the industry and started writing articles. And, people who know me already started saying that, when are you going to write your next book? Because my first book was about barbering called Shortcuts with Oscar. And I think next one is going to be uh, Barbering Goes to Brokering, something like that. So I haven't decided yet, but I've been writing articles and mass emailing to my clients and friends every Wednesday, and I love it. And I know that it takes such consistency to do um, create an audience. And one thing about doing this video casting, I found that it's very visual. And I watch a lot of successful people on YouTube, and I kept saying to myself, why not just get a cool sign, get some photos, and get a camera and a microphone, do the setup, and do this myself and reach as many as people I can. Because I know most of us go home, nobody's watching cable TV anymore. I am not doing it. We canceled it 3 years ago. Most of the information that we get is from social media and also YouTube. The second thing is that I moved to Fort Lauderdale from Istanbul, Turkey, and it was a huge adjustment just coming to this country. I remember just being picked up in Miami airport and driving to Fort Lauderdale in a 4 or 5 lane highway, which I have never seen big highway like that in my life. And I was like, oh my God, I will never drive on this highway. And even though I drive today, I don't want to drive. It feels like a death trap. It's super fast. I don't know, something very scary about it. But what I liked about this country, that equality. I know today everybody's talking about how unequal this country, and not everybody has got the same opportunities. But it is something that I listen to other people, try to have sympathy and empathy. But here's a guy that came in here very early 20s and tried to do my own thing, and I have never felt personally, at least me, that any shape or form where I came from or who I am or what I look like stopped me from what I wanted to do. And it's very sad that everybody's so sensitive today that the you know country is going to such way to where I came from. There's a reason that people leave countries like Istanbul, I'm sorry, Turkey, or people leave countries like, that are not successful or considered as third world countries. Either it doesn't matter how smart or how much work they want to put together in order to achieve things that they can because of um, what class that they belong to, and jumping classes are super hard. But in America, we call it the America, the United States, had totally different standards. I mean, look at me. I came in here. I was a barber. I said, okay, I'm gonna become a real estate broker, and now I'm broadcaster. And who knows what I'm gonna do 10 years from now? But it enables me to chase my dreams and put them together with the money that we make in this country, right? Or the time and the scheduling and all of that stuff enables it. And I'm very, very happy to live in this country. And for people who are complaining, I ask them to second, guess or try to live in another country, especially where the most immigrants come to this country and see the difference. It's easy to um, make opinions about certain things, but it's another thing living through and seeing the difference as a person in person personally. It's tremendous. I strongly suggest to people, that's why traveling is a great way of learning and understanding other cultures and other people. So when I first moved in here, real estate market was just right after I understood enough English and go through the whole thing, crashed in 2008, and it was sad. It was one of those things that I didn't really understand it, how finances were working. But then when the crash happened, it was sad because I realized that a lot of the people who were selling real estate for the hot market and limited time, they were just in and out. They make the quick bucks and they just move out. And the people who have been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years stayed strong in the market and they continue to do so. So post-COVID and pre-COVID, they were completely different markets. I remember I just opened my brokerage and started selling real estate. And I realized that, selling real estate in a regular market, not hot, not cold, just in the middle, excuse me, it's very hard. It's not only hard, you have to understand it, and it takes patience. Like you might put a property with a great pricing on the market with great marketing efforts, and you might have to show it 100 times. And with the idea in mind that you only show it to one person that says yes. So this continuous effort is not for everyone. But I liked it. It was something that, staying behind the barber chair all day long is great, and you talk to people, but you're very stationary. And I felt after doing it for 20 years, I'm like, man, I just got to get out of this place. And real estate let me get into different parts of the town, different types of homes, single families, condos, apartments, co-ops, duplexes, you name it. And it kind of let me start, feeling what these people have been talking in my chair and listening to them from behind my chair. And it was very interesting, and I fell in love with it immediately. Especially, I found one more thing about myself is that I like taking photos. I like taking videos, and even this whole thing, I could rent a studio to do this or hire somebody and give him a few $100s and expedite this thing. But I don't know, something about creating it myself just gives me that pleasure of being personally touched to what I am attached to, and I take pride in it. And growing up, I didn't play a lot of sports. A lot of the sports in Turkey were consisted of basketball and soccer. And immediately I realized that I didn't like to be in a team because it doesn't matter how much effort that you can put in a game, that you might not gain that effort back in a positive way if two players are not good. So that led me into when I moved to United States. And before I came in here, I did taekwondo and I did in United States, Western boxing forever. And one thing about boxers always say that, you get your ass beaten and there's nobody to blame except yourself. And, I carried that on to my business life, including making this video, that if I get negative comments that it sucks, it's me. I made it. I mean, the way I sounded, the way I put it together, or the subjects or whatever. And because there's nobody to blame, I can make those adjustments myself and then create efficiency. So it's been great before COVID market was just a regular market, and I remember the beginning of March talking to my close friends and colleagues, and I remember telling them that, hey, don't spend that money. March 2020, pre-COVID, pre-closures. And I started telling people that, hey, I think we are going to shut down. There's going to be such event that nobody's going to be able to open their businesses and we're going to stay home. And they're going to force us to stay home. And it was very interesting that people laughed at me, but I watched and I researched online, especially when it first happened in Italy. I remember playing this video game. I don't remember what it was. It's like you create a virus and then you try to create such an outbreak and infect everyone on Earth. I can't remember the name of it. But just taking that video game in mind, it was very interesting that exactly how I thought it happened. It started with China and come to Italy, from Italy to Europe, and then we shut down and secluded United States from other countries. Then it was the states, the cities, the counties, and eventually came to our single homes. And honestly, initially, you know, I went out and then bought a bunch of booze. I'm sure everybody did the same thing and some steaks. I'm thinking this is the end of the world. And it was very interesting that I ended up not drinking, right? Because I had no stress watching TV. I'm sure everybody remembers those daily briefings. It felt like a sci-fi movie. But, at one point, I started wondering, like, how are we going to make money, right? I mean, all right, so I can sell real estate. They are not even letting me get out of my own home or forget just going to my neighbor's home. And even if I sold something, how they going to move into their units or a single family home? It was very interesting times. I remember just walking on A1A that everybody was like almost 10 feet away from each other. And, we all lived it through in different circumstances. But odd things started happening. My phone started ringing within 2 weeks into COVID, which I had a very funny story. I had a listing that was on the beach. It was slightly overpriced, and the building had very high HOA fees. Plus, the building had a community laundry, meaning that you didn't have your washer and dryer inside of the unit. And no parking space, valet only, including the unit owner and the residents. And the residents had to pay, I believe, $8 to $10 a day after the second day. So that made a very, very hard sale. And I knew that. I said to myself flat out, I'm not even going to call the client. I don't even know what mindset that he's in, but the listing is going to expire. And the day before the expiration of the listing, I got this phone call from the neighbor who lived next door to the subject unit. And she said that, you know what, I don't know what's going on in the world, but I like to buy this unit. I like to move my mom next to me where I can see, kind of socialize. We don't know how long this is going to take. And did my first COVID sale. They actually didn't even want to see the unit, didn't want to inspect the unit, and we moved forward and we closed on the unit, I believe, within 3 weeks. And the approval process was a lot easier from the association because the purchaser lived in the building already. And from that point on, I felt like, wow, this was just an odd thing and I got lucky. But that led into people calling me from the East Coast, telling me, hey, I don't want to live in a condo. I don't want to live with a bunch of people, which before people didn't want to live in an isolation and isolated areas. They wanted to be where the other people were. But now it completely changed with that mindset that a lot of people wanted to be isolated and stay with their close family and friends in a little nutshell. And single family home prices just skyrocketed. I remember walking into these right after the vaccination, right? Not before the vaccination, but right after the vaccination when everybody was wearing just masks and kind of social distancing, but nobody was social distancing. Um, and I'm not giving my opinion it was right or wrong. Um, Anyways, I remember walking into these um, open houses that they had a notebook which you had to sign, and in order to make an offer on the property, that your name had to be on the open list, open house list. It was so interesting times that more than 50 people bid on such property, and with no inspections, and they're closing in 7 days, cash, 10%, 15% over asking. With I learned many things during that period called an escalation clause. Escalation clauses are very interesting. Escalation means that if the property is asking $100,000 and there are multiple bidders, and normally the listing site will say, hey, make your best and final offer, and we're going to have a deadline of Monday, 5 p.m., and we're going to decide after looking at all the offers, whoever got the best and final, we will make a decision Tuesday noon. So when you're talking to a buyer, like, hey, how much you want to offer for it? Hey, the first initial thing is like, well, they want 100 grand. Like, we're going to do 100 grand, right? I mean, I'm like, no, probably a lot of people are going to bid a lot higher than 100 grand. And then they're like, well, let's go 105. Well, then this question pops in your mind. It's like, how do you know the 105 is going to take it? How do you know that somebody else is going to come on the table with 110 or 120 or 150? So I am sure that happened in the past, not often in this industry. After researching it, I realized that a lot of people started putting these escalation clauses, meaning that, hey, you're asking $100,000 and I'm giving you $100,000 with a term stating that I will beat the best offer by X amount of dollars. Let's call it, I will beat the best offer for $5,000. So we initially bid $100,000 and somebody else came with $115,000. It would automatically escalate our offer price to $120,000, and we would win the win. We would win the bid, sorry. I used this technique many times, and it was very successful until one day we did this escalation clause and sent it to the sellers, and I got an answer in the morning stating that we did not win the bid. And I'm like, started scratching my head. I was like, how come we didn't win the bid? We have to win the bid. I have the escalation clause. I mean, whoever came highest, I bid him by another $5,000, and it was I believe $600,000 property, 635 or something like that. I don't remember it exactly. But what turns out, somebody was a little bit more clever than me, and that's why I love this industry. You have to be creative. Somebody had an escalation clause with an additional escalation clause, meaning I will give you the asking price with a $5,000 escalation. And if somebody else has got an escalation clause matches my escalated amount, I will beat that escalated amount by another $5,000. I was mind blown. I mean, I was like, my mouth was jar open on the phone, and I was like, wow, that is the smartest thing I've ever heard. That was a great story. But moving towards the August, I started seeing it in May 2022 that the market has slowed down. Interest rates were coming up from 3% to 4 and 5. And I remember some of the financial people that I do business with, I told them that I think the interest rates are going to go up to 7. And people laughed at me. Lots of people laughed at me. And now what my prediction is, I hate to say it, I'm going to say it. When I say this, people laugh at me today, and I want to be laughed at, and I want 3 months from now people looking at me and saying like, man, you crazy, see? That's not the point. But I think the interest rates are going to go ahead around 9%. I know when you have inflation around, 7, 8, 9%, I don't even know what it is, because they're telling me the inflation is 8%. And I'm talking to, Helen the other day. Like, we always bought, Coke Zero 12 can. That was $3.99. Now it's $7.99. I mean, eggs tripled in price, bread tripled in price, and cars, you cannot even touch the cars that, trying to lease another car. So I don't know how they're making this 8%, but inflation is, if you ask me, it's definitely around 25, 30%. It's another whole discussion. I'm not a financial expert when it comes to these stuff, but I can tell by just watching my wallet and watching the prices on the just a simple example of common goods at a grocery store. But when you bring it back to real estate, interest rates affects everything. Just the median house sale in the United States. So when you combine all the sales in the United States, median sale is about $375,000. So if you're trying to get a mortgage on a $375,000 home, 30-year fixed at 3%, your principal and your interest would be around $1,200, which is a tremendous, with 20% down. So if you're trying to do the same thing today, the same home, just a year later, a year and a half later, purchasing a $375,000 home with 20% down on 30-year fixed on a 7%, your principal plus your interest would be $1,900. That's almost 60% increase in monthly payments. So you take that 60%, basically, that's what inflation and mortgage rates, right? I mean, it's easier to say it's only 4%, but 4% makes a huge difference in monthly payments. And I know a lot of the mortgage people are not going to like what I'm saying, but it is the way it is because, I take people in my car and we try, start talking about real estate and they don't realize like, I remember, especially the older folks. I mean, I'm not that young, but a little bit older than me. And they say, when I first bought my house, I did it at 17% or it was like 13%. And I researched it from late 80s till the late 90s. United States economy had 13% and higher. No, I'm sorry, 10% and higher interest rate for 13 consecutive years. And it's a fact. It happened. But on the other side, this is just a wave that we are going through because the inflation is high. And Federal Reserve Bank is saying that, hey, in order to bring the inflation, we have to increase the interest rate. So when knowingly the interest rate increases, demand will diminish. Either people are not going to be able to afford it or people are going to say, that is crazy. I'm not paying 7%, 8%, 9% for mortgage for 30 years. I'm not going to buy it. And this is the market that we are seeing today. There are not buyers. I mean, it's 2 plus 2, it's 4. It's not 5. Universally, it's 4. And when you increase the interest rates, you are going to see less buyers. But what's interesting is that the inventory is still all-time low. And, one of the reasons for the inventory to be being low, whoever wanted to buy a real estate, they already bought it and they're living in it. And even if they had the idea of selling, now they're thinking, if I sell this, I bought it at 2.5%, 3% interest, how am I going to replace it, right? And another thing is that there is only so much property. I'm, excluding all the other parts of the country. I'm just focusing on, South Florida, where I know real estate industry. This brings the other question in mind that I get people say, like, so is this a good time to buy or a bad time to buy? Now, if you're a cash buyer, I think this is the best time to buy, period. There's not a lot of people out there, like the other example that I gave, that people are not showing up to open houses, and they're not flocking to open houses, 30, 40, 50, 60 people. City not being cold because there's an open house and the streets are jammed with cars of strangers. Snowbirds, I call them. Or we can call them the Westbirds. There's a lot of Canadian people moving to South Florida as well. I'm not going to go in there, but they are moving. California is going to have a tremendous problem in real estate because of the amount of people moving out of California. But anyways, if you're a cash buyer, like I said, this is going to be a fantastic time to purchase a home. Now we can talk about just property. I'm talking about property in general, which is it is a great time to buy. If you're a cash buyer, you have tremendous but tremendous negotiation power today, because when you have a property on the market more than 60 days and 90 days at a fixed price reduction after price reduction, and somebody coming on the door and saying, listen, I have cash. I don't have to go through finances. I'm not worried about the 7%, 8%, and 9% interest. Because you see, so having cash definitely eliminates all those worries. And, nationwide, the prices have come down 7%. And South Florida is a little bit different because it's very popular, and, a lot of retirees just flock here every year just because they retired, and, wealthy people, they just, hold, second homes as vacation homes. And there's a lot of investors in here for a variety of tax reasons. But given the fact that it's going to be a great time for cash buyers, and at the same time, if you are a family with a great cash flow, I think this is going to be a great time for you as well. I think purchasing something, even though you are financing at a lower price, is going to keep everything lower, including your insurance, your purchasing the title insurance. Everything is going to be a lot lower. And if you understand a little bit of economics, knowing that this coming down part of the diagram, I guess they call them candlesticks. We are right in here as a candlestick, and every trader knows. I know just a little bit about trading. When the stick is down, the candlestick, it's going to either go up. There's going to be a movement, and we know we are going to come out of this thing, and interest rates are going to be lower again. And it's funny. I was listening to a few people online, and they were saying that right now is the time. If you want to buy a home, or if you have to buy a home, go ahead and buy a home and negotiate with your lender that if you refinance this property, your personal home or whatever property that you are purchasing, that they would do the refi at no cost to you within 24 months or 36 months. Because even though you will buy the property higher interest, your purchase price would be at least 20% lower than what it would be, maybe even more, depending on your negotiation skills and how desperate the market at that given time. And coming back to it, because you would have no closing cost, you could have a tremendous gain between the monthly amounts given to the lender. So I would not be afraid to do anything depending on who you are, what you are trying to do. Like, again, if you are a business owner, has got great cash flow, I think this is a great time to take advantage of the market. If you have cash, this is a tremendous advantage to, gain and maximize gains in real estate portfolio. But if you're a person that is working on a fixed amount, I think this would be a market that would definitely need a rest for you guys, because that fluctuation, not knowing when the market is going to stable itself, might be a cause problem just because of the fixed income. For like today, I had a phone call from a colleague friend of mine. I don't want to give his name because I didn't ask his permission, but I like to have him on the show. And he called me after my article about the full reserve mandate on South Florida condominium associations. And he said, hey, I loved your article. You write every week. It's very informative. I talked about the insurance, this and this. And he said to me that they recently moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. They had to, and somehow plans didn't work out, and they moved back to South Florida. And he was surprised that he couldn't get insurance for the property that he had under contract. And he said that there were two insurance companies, which is Citizens, regulated by the state of Florida, and the other private insurance company made him, run around the inspections and repairs and all of that stuff, and they would just not write it. And at one point, in his own words, he said that we were not gonna. He said he thought that they were not going to be able to move forward with this property. Now we're talking about a financially strong couple who makes way above six figures and purchasing a $600,000 home. After his extensive research, like, you find a cure when you have the illness type of stuff, he figured out that USAA started writing property insurances in South Florida. And he called me and he said, Oscar, I know how much you would love to give out information to general public or people in our industry, and I would love to be heard. So check out USAA. I believe you have to become a member. There's no obligation to be a veteran to be a part of USAA, and I think it's a credit union. I don't have tremendous information, and they are not sponsoring this video for sure. But if it's a third alternative, it's gonna get somebody the dream home that they've been looking, or any property for their family members. Keep that in mind and do your research. Again, this is just the third party information. I'm just passing it through. But he was very happy, and he says he's letting as many as people know about this new insurance company writing insurances in South Florida. But this is the reason that I want to have guests on my show, because it is something to talk about something and reaching out to audiences. And it's another thing that, feeding one another, having a conversation and hearing other people's experiences of, oh, this is what happened to me while I was buying home. Oh, let me tell you something. You would never do this. And I want to have entrepreneurs from different backgrounds, right? And of course, we're always going to touch real estate, because you realize that every successful entrepreneur always has got some real estate holdings. Now, you can call it diversification, or you could call it it's just safer to have a piece of earth than keeping your money in stocks. Regardless. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this. One of the reasons that I have these, I don't want people to think like, what's with the girls? Now, this girl is South Florida. I love her. I love how the lighting and the real deal with Oscar matches. And I purchased this from an art dealer years ago for, I believe, $45. Now it's worth a lot of money. Not a lot of money, but at least, I don't know. I don't want to give a number. But the other one here, I'm going to put the microphone down now. This painting is done by a Ukrainian artist. And I have a great Ukrainian friend, Alex, and he's an amazing artist. And he's actually responsible for making the Aries Luxury Properties logo for my company after me handing him the initial business card. And he's a very cute guy, very handsome. He just recently got married, and congratulations to him again. And he politely looked at me and said, may I design you a new logo for your company? I'm like, sure, absolutely. And when he came back, and you will see my logo, I'm going to put it at the end of the video. It just blew my mind. And I said to myself, wow, he's super talented. And thank you, Alex, one more time for that. But as good as an artist he is, and he's an amazing human being, and he happens to be from Ukraine, who has a lot of other artists stuck in that country. And he approached me with this idea. He said, hey, I have some paintings here. And he actually moved. He went to Ukraine to get his wife out of this mess. And while he's doing that, he got some paintings from his friends, and they were saying like, oh my God, there's war is happening. We're not going to be able to sell anything here, and we need to make a living. Can you help us out? And he called me up, and he said, we have done this before with his art because it's so good. I displayed it in my office, and a lot of people purchased this beautiful art. Right now, he's only commissioning art. He's not just mass producing because he finished his school and he's got a great job for himself. But regardless of that issue, he said to me, I got some paintings and I like to, get some money from them so I can send it to my friends in Ukraine and help them. With this cause, we sold a lot of pieces in my office, and this is one of those pieces I love, and I wanted to have it on my first episode. So if you're interested, I can give you the price. I just don't want to do it right in here. Uh, it's just a marketing thing. So this will, if you really wonder, if you really, inquire about this, you're gonna have to text me or email me or call me about that. But I promise you, it's very affordable, and you will know that it went to a place that it was so appreciative. With that, I guess I'm gonna shut up talking. I think I've been talking for an hour, and I ran straight for this one. This was very interesting. I thought this worked out pretty good. So, if you have any comments, if you have any ideas, if you like to be on the show or like to purchase this painting for Ukrainian artists, contact me. Let's do this. With that, stay healthy, Fort Lauderdale. Take care, guys. Stay healthy. No, I wanted to do the other thing with the Ron Burgundy thing. What was that? Was it stay well? No, no. Anyways, so you got the message. You guys take care, and I hope this was informative and enjoyable. Uh, I'm looking forward to have a guest next time, by phone or in person. We'll take it one step at a time. Take care, guys. All the best wishes, as always. Remember, Oscar sells real estate.